The repair bay stank of ozone, coolant, and leftover noodles. Somewhere near the ceiling, a rusted vent fan wheezed like it was on its final breath, trying and failing to stir the heavy, humid air. Jules Harker knelt beside a decommissioned gravbike, his sleeves rolled up, a plasma spanner in one hand and a cup of lukewarm caf balancing precariously on the coolant reservoir. He muttered to himself, something unflattering about machines' fate and the day he decided to set up shop at the edge of civilized space. Then the lights flickered. Not the usual flicker, the oops I kicked the power conduit again kind. No, this was deeper, systemic, power grid ripple, something big was coming in. Jules stood squinting through the smeared viewport. A silhouette long and sinuous loomed beyond the glass, a warship, sleek as sin, trailing smoke like a wounded predator. Its hull shimmered with reflective plates, bruised by laser burns and kinetic scars. It coasted toward the landing pad with all the subtlety of a funeral march. "Well," he said, dusting his hands. "Either I'm about to be vaporized, or I've got a new customer." The bay's outer doors groaned open. The warship docked without a sound, like a shadow parking itself. The boarding ramp hissed down, revealing 2 armored feet and the slow descent of a tall, impossibly elegant figure. She moved like gravity feared her. White skin, black hair bound in tight coils, and eyes the color of a collapsing star. Her ears were long, rising past her skull like soft antennae that flicked with each footfall. Her armor was a marvel, biomechanical plates with shifting surfaces, alive with faint pulses of light and deep, alien geometry. Elegant, deadly, and badly damaged, Jules crossed his arms. "Let me guess. You're here for the oil change and the deluxe air freshener." The alien woman blinked, not slowly, precisely. This vessel sustained damage during unauthorized atmospheric re-entry. "So yes to the oil change." She said nothing. Her gaze scanned the cluttered bay, clearly unimpressed with the half-dismantled machinery, broken chair, and a toaster mounted to the wall with a sticky note that read, "Do not trust this toaster." "I am Commander Sailari," she said at last. "Vayari Dominion. This facility came up as the only non-hostile port within range. Are you the mechanic?" "That depends," Jules said, wiping his hands on a towel that may have once been white. "Do you consider sarcasm a hostile act?" She blinked again. He sighed. "Yeah, I'm the mechanic." A pause. "I require your assistance," she said, her voice level as a machine's heartbeat. "The exo-armor is fused with my physiology. Full disassembly is not an option." Jules squinted at her. "Wait, you want me to fix your armor while you're still wearing it?" "Affirmative." "Right," he ran a hand through his hair. "Because working around live plasma circuits next to someone's spleen is totally in my top 5 hobbies." She tilted her head. "Do you require hazard compensation?" "Lady, I require therapy." He led her to the central repair bench, sweeping off a pile of tools, a comic strip titled Mech and Cheese, and a half-eaten protein bar. She climbed atop it with fluid grace, armor creaking like old bark shifting in the wind. As he powered up his scanner, he muttered, "You're lucky. The last guy who asked me to fix a suit while he wore it had a nervous fart and shorted out half his neural net. I do not possess such reflexes." "That's a real shame." They were hilarious. The scanner beeped and drew up a 3-dimensional overlay of the suit. Jules whistled low. "This thing's more complicated than a Terran tax form. I mean, look at this. Biolattice woven into muscle interfaces, reactive plating, nanofiber sheaths. Is that a quantum mood regulator?" "Yes," she said, expression unchanged. He stared at her. "Are you telling me your armor gets moody?" "Only in response to the pilot's psychological fluctuations." "So moody." She said nothing. He sighed and pulled on his haptic gloves. "All right, I'll start with the shoulder interface. Try not to move." As he worked, the tools buzzed softly. The only sound in the bay besides the rhythmic hum of life support and the occasional muttered curse from Jules. The shoulder piece was a mess, fractured bionanites trying to reform but stuck in a feedback loop. Carefully, he isolated the signals, rewired the anchors, and resealed the tendrils. Then it happened. A sound, barely audible, a breath of laughter. He froze. Celari's eyes widened ever so slightly, and she turned her head away. "Did you just laugh?" he asked. "No. I think you did." "I did not." "You definitely did." It was like somewhere between a giggle and a sneeze. She stared straight ahead. It was a reaction to neural stimulus, not amusement. He grinned so it tickled. "That term is imprecise." "Oh, don't be embarrassed. Happens all the time. I once fixed a diplomat's pelvic actuator, and the guy sang the Terran anthem in falsetto." She exhaled slowly. "Continue the repairs." "As you command, O dignified and highly ticklish warrior queen." The ears flicked. He got back to work, hiding a smile. Beneath the plates, he saw the smallest tremors in her muscles, the faint flicker of biofeedback light, like her suit was reacting to her trying not to react. It was all very professional, very serious, except for the fact that every third adjustment made her twitch like she was suppressing a sneeze. Somewhere along the way, she spoke again, softly. "You are not afraid of me." Jules didn't look up. "Should I be?" "I have destroyed ships with a glance, silenced planets. Well, I once fixed a reactor with a spoon and a prayer. Everyone's got a story." She turned toward him just slightly. "You do not speak like the others." "I don't know the others. But I speak like a guy who lives on a station with 3 robots, 1 toaster, and a deep yearning for decent company." Her expression softened, the faintest curve maybe at the edge of her lips. Maybe. He powered down his tools. "All right, shoulders good. But I'm gonna need to recalibrate the neural anchors in your backplate. That means more, tickling." She nodded once. "I will endure." He gave her a look. "Careful, Commander. That almost sounded like a joke." "No, jokes require intent. Still, if you accidentally develop a sense of humor, I take no responsibility." The lights in the bay dimmed slightly as the warship behind her cycled down. She remained on the bench, still as moonlight, watching him gather his tools. "Jules," she said. He blinked. "Yeah. Thank you." He stopped, looked at her, not the armor, not the glowing eyes or the flicking ears, just her. Then he smiled. "Don't mention it, really. The last thing I need is a reputation for being helpful." He turned back to his tools, but the air between them felt different now. Lighter, like the gravity on this old station had eased just a little. And somewhere, deep in the armor's circuitry, a soft pulse of light throbbed like the beat of a heart beginning to thaw. The next morning began with a bang. Literally. Something in the waste compressor exploded at 6:03, setting off the fire suppression system and dumping half a metric ton of foam across Bay 2. Jules emerged from the mess looking like a snowman with a caffeine addiction, muttering curses in 3 languages and trying to wipe the foam from his eyes with a soggy towel. Celari didn't blink when he staggered in. She stood exactly where he'd left her the night before, though her armor was powered down and the lights along its seams had dimmed to a soft cyan. She tilted her head as he entered, dripping foam onto the floor. "I assume this is part of your standard maintenance routine." He blew a blob off his nose. "Yup, it's the welcome to my garage spa package. We start with a foam wrap, then we exfoliate with high-voltage regrets." "I see." Her ears twitched. "Very traditional." He dropped into his chair, boots squelching. "You want traditional? I can also offer you coffee that tastes like melted screws. Fresh brewed." "No thank you. Your physiology seems adapted to unpleasant substances." "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all month." She was watching him again, not with suspicion or wariness, more like curiosity. The kind of gaze you might give a cat that just learned to open doors. He grabbed a scanner and wiped a patch of foam off the console. "So, today's to-do list. Stabilize your backplate, recalibrate your motor links, maybe figure out why your shoulder keeps trying to eject itself into low orbit. Sound good?" "Affirmative." "And maybe, I don't know, see if we can deactivate your explode-on-tickling reflex." She hesitated. "It is not a reflex." "Oh, come on. You flinched so hard yesterday I thought your suit was gonna file a restraining order. It was unexpected. He smirked and pulled up the diagnostics. That's all right. Most people are surprised when they find out I know what I'm doing. The scans lit up the hollow screen with a mesh of nerves and tech, an intricate ballet of Veyari design and muscle memory. The neural pathways interfacing with the armor looked frayed, like they'd been overwritten too many times. No wonder she was flinching. Half her suit was probably whispering static into her spine. You've got feedback loops in your thoracic relay, he said, rotating the diagram. Feels like someone tried to reprogram the system using a meat tenderizer and a bad attitude. I attempted emergency recalibration mid-combat. Also user error, classic. I was under pursuit from 2 enemy squadrons and a Mechadron-class Titan. I had limited options. Sure, but did you try turning it off and on again? She narrowed her eyes at him. He grinned. Kidding, mostly. He moved behind her, tools in hand. The backplate was sealed with adaptive filament, a weave of living metal that responded to pressure like skin. He tapped twice, and it shimmered open, revealing the humming conduit beneath. I'm going to disengage the anchor node, he said. It might feel odd. She nodded without turning. He reached in with a stabilizer fork and felt the armor react to his presence, its surface rippling faintly around his gloves. The tech was astonishing, half machine, half organism, pulsing with a faint bioluminescence. Somewhere deep inside, it still remembered it was alive. As he worked, she spoke. You treat the armor as if it were a person. Well, it does complain a lot and refuses to cooperate. So yeah, seems accurate. Most would fear touching it. Most haven't worked with a Drazen diplomat's hover robe. That thing tried to strangle me when I insulted its hemline. You insulted its hemline. I said it looked like a flying tablecloth. Didn't go over well. A pause. Was it accurate? Oh, completely. He adjusted the final filament and rerouted the feedback loop. The armor hissed, shuddered, and then went still. Lights along the spine flickered green. There, he said, should be more comfortable now. She flexed her shoulder, rotating her arm. No twitch, no spasm, just smooth movement. It feels better. That's because I'm a genius, he said, wiping his gloves. Or lucky, possibly both. She stood, the armor realigning with a whisper of shifting plates. I underestimated you. Thanks, most people do. Keeps expectations low. She studied him again. You do not act like a soldier, and yet you work as if you have seen war. He hesitated, just a flicker, then he shrugged. I used to fix dropships for the coalition, saw plenty of war, didn't care for it. Too noisy, too many speeches. You left. Got tired of patching holes in machines designed to make bigger holes in other people's machines. Figured I'd rather fix things that wanted to be fixed. She was quiet for a long moment. I understand. He looked up. Do you? Yes. Another silence, but not a heavy one. More like something unspoken passing between them, hovering in the open air of the garage like charged particles waiting for alignment. Then the wall console beeped. Oh great, Jules muttered. What now? He wiped foam off the screen and read the incoming signal, a long-range scan. High-energy burst, triangulating from deep orbit. He frowned. You expecting company? No. Her voice was suddenly sharper. They found me. Define. Veyari strike surveillance. A recon drone, most likely. Fantastic, you lead them here. They must have traced my emergency jump. He stared at her. You mean to tell me I've been harboring a fugitive in high-grade armor, with half the galaxy's angriest bureaucrats on her tail? Yes. He ran a hand down his face. Lady, you really know how to make a guy feel appreciated. They will not attack immediately. They will watch, confirm, then report. Lovely. So we've got what? A few hours before your old coworkers drop in for a strongly worded incineration. Approximately. Jules looked around his cluttered shop, then back to her. Well, he said, if they're gonna torch my place, I at least want a proper goodbye meal. You ever had Terran instant noodles? She stared at him. Do they taste like melted screws? He grinned, only the good ones. Jules dropped a coil of fusing cable onto the bench, then immediately picked it back up and tried to brush off the noodle sauce that had somehow ended up on the insulation. He didn't remember eating noodles during a system calibration, but apparently multitasking while panicking was now one of his many underappreciated talents. Across the shop, Celari stood beside the half-open sensor panel, watching the ceiling as if it had personally insulted her lineage. Her armor had stabilized after the last repair, but now it pulsed with a low, subtle glow, like a calm heartbeat that didn't trust the quiet. "They're still out there," she said. "I figured," Jules replied, waving a scanner at the open conduit. "My toaster's been muttering in binary since they pinged us. That's usually a bad sign." "Your toaster?" "Yeah, it's got a Wi-Fi implant. Picks up on mood swings in orbiting weapons platforms. That is not a normal appliance. Lady, if anything in this place is normal, I'd like to meet it and apologize." She approached slowly, ears tilting forward. "Do you have a plan?" Jules made a face. Plan is a strong word, more like a loose collection of improvisations tied together with hope, sarcasm, and duct tape. "They will send more than scouts once they confirm my identity." "Then we better make your identity a little harder to confirm." He tapped the scanner, rotated the output, and narrowed his eyes. "The good news is, your armor's signal signature is still scrambled from the last jump. The bad news is your face is very unmistakable." She raised an eyebrow. "You are suggesting I wear a mask?" "Well, unless you want to spend the next week hiding in my floor panels with the shop mice, yes. I would crush the mice." "Exactly. They've been here longer than me. It's a respect thing." She blinked slowly. Jules sighed and reached under the bench, pulling out a crate labeled "Costumes, Do Not Open, Ever." He cracked it open and rummaged through its chaotic depths. "What is that?" she asked, frowning. "Backup identities, mostly from bad ideas and worse parties. Here we go, ah." He pulled out a cracked visor mask with a neon smile and a pair of fake antennae that twitched when powered on. "No," she said flatly. "Oh, come on, it's got character." "It is ridiculous." "Perfect. That's how you blend in, by looking so dumb no one assumes you're dangerous." She gave him a long, skeptical look. "I am not wearing that." He held it up. "But it wiggles." She turned away. "I will take my chances with the mice." Jules tossed the mask back into the crate with a dramatic sigh. "Fine. Be all majestic and mysterious, but I'm painting over your armor's ID nodes before dinner." As he got to work, Celari settled onto the bench beside him. It was the first time she sat without being told to. Her posture remained upright, alert, but her hands rested in her lap, relaxed. The change was subtle, but Jules noticed. "You ever think about not going back?" he asked as he sprayed a layer of signal-dampening polycoat across her left pauldron. "Back where?" "Wherever they're expecting you. Vayari command. Battlefields, destruction, all the glamorous stuff." She was quiet a moment, then, "I have thought about it." "Well, you don't talk like someone itching to blow up another moon." She tilted her head. "You make it sound casual." "I mean people quit jobs all the time. Sure, most don't involve experimental armor and enemy drones, but still. It is not that simple. Because of honor. Because of memory." He stopped mid-spray. "Memory," he echoed. She looked at her gauntlet, fingers flexing slowly. "The suit remembers. Every battle, every command, every action. It is encoded in the neural matrix. Even if I wanted to forget, it would not." Jules lowered the spray. "That's the worst black box I've ever heard of. It was designed to ensure consistency, continuity of purpose. Sounds exhausting." "It is survival." He watched her for a moment, then picked up a microbrush and leaned in to trace the remaining identifier nodes on her chest plate. "You know," he said, "you could just reprogram the armor, scrub the memory core." "No." "Why not?" "Because then I would forget the day I laughed." He paused. She didn't look up, but her voice had dropped just enough to ripple through the space between them like a slow current. It was the first time in years. It was unexpected. He smiled, ticklish surprise does that. I had forgotten what that felt like. He finished the last stroke of paint and sat back. Well, I'd say that's worth remembering. She turned toward him, her eyes not just glowing but focused, sharper than before. Not as if targeting but as if seeing. You are not what I expected, Jules Harker. Join the club. Then the lights in the bay flickered again. But not like before, this was harsher, sharper. A surge of power as the station's orbital sensors kicked online with full alert. Jules shot up and slammed a hand on the console. Proximity breach. Something's decloaking. Celari stood, armor already shifting into a more defensive pattern. How many? Just one, Jules said, staring at the screen. But it's not a drone. She joined him at the console. The image resolved into a small ship, barely larger than a shuttle, sliding out of cloak at the edge of visual range. Its hull gleamed black and copper, no markings, but the signature was unmistakable. Assassin-class interceptor, Celari said grimly. Friendly. She didn't answer. Jules turned to her. You think they're here for you or for us? Does it matter? Only in how fast I start panicking. The console beeped again. The ship wasn't charging weapons. It wasn't broadcasting a warning. It was just sitting there, a silent, patient shadow against the stars. They're watching, she said. For how long? Until they are ordered otherwise. Jules ran a hand down his face. Great, space stalkers, just what I needed. She stepped back, scanning the room. We should prepare, reinforce the bay. You want me to fight off an assassin ship with a wrench and a sarcasm generator. I have my armor, and I have a flamethrower that runs on hair gel. Let's not pretend we're evenly matched. She looked at him, then we retreat. He blinked, we what? I have a secondary jump drive in my wrecked cruiser. If you help me reactivate it, we can leave before they move. Jules stared. You're inviting me to come with you. You've already violated 3 Vayari regulations and at least 2 galactic neutrality codes. You are now involved. He exhaled slowly. I was just trying to fix a suit. She stepped forward. You fixed more than that. He looked at her hand, held out armored steady. Well, he said, reaching for it, as long as there's no mice on your ship. I make no promises. The interior of the Vayari cruiser looked like it had been punched by a meteor, and then repaired by someone who'd never met symmetry. Half the walls were scorched, one corridor flickered with intermittent gravity, and the central power core was humming like it had a sore throat. Jules stood in the entryway of the engine bay, hands on hips, staring at the jump drive Celari had promised would save their skins. Okay, he said, dragging the word out like a heavy box. I've seen cleaner death traps. Celari stepped past him, her boots clanging against the deck plating. The auxiliary systems are intact. The jump core is dormant but functional. Functional in the same way, a rotting banana is technically still edible. She crouched beside the drive's access hatch and peeled back a panel. Beneath it, conduits glowed faintly with residual charge, but one of the main capacitors had been fused by heat, or a small explosion. Possibly several. Jules knelt beside her, poked at the damage, and winced. This whole thing's about as stable as my last relationship. What happened to it? It tried to kill me. Literally. Long story involving a bounty and a jealous robotic ex. She didn't comment. Instead, she handed him a tool that buzzed to life the second his fingers closed around it. He paused. Wait, this is a molecular welder. Yes, you trust me with this. No, he grinned, you're warming up to me. I am not. You say that like you're trying to convince the armor, not me. She turned away. Her ears twitched. Jules leaned in to start realigning the burned-out conduit. So what happens if this jump core fails mid-jump? Just hypothetically, we disintegrate. Cool, no pressure. The tools buzzed, the circuits sparked, and he got to work. They fell into a rhythm, him recalibrating the junction nodes, her rerouting power from less vital systems. Occasionally he made jokes. Occasionally she didn't correct him. It was progress. At one point he reached under the core to grab a stray connector and bumped into her armored hip. She flinched slightly. He glanced up. "Sorry. Didn't mean to invade your personal bubble of lethality." "It is fine. It's just, your armor has more sharp angles than my tax record." "I do not know what that means." "It means I need hazard pay." She handed him a bundle of insulated cables without looking at him. He took them with a grin. The repairs continued for over an hour, interrupted only by the occasional groan of the cruiser's tired metal frame and Jules swearing creatively when something sparked unexpectedly. Eventually the core gave a low, steady pulse, a sign of stabilization. Jules wiped his forehead. "Okay, we're online. I've bypassed the fried safety protocols, so we won't technically be protected during the jump, but hey, sometimes you have to live a little." She nodded. "Navigation is locked to a drift point near the asteroid fields of Velsin. Remote, unlikely to be monitored." "Good. I always wanted to vacation somewhere with less air and more high-velocity debris." He stood, stretching his back with a groan, and took one last look at the jury-rigged drive. "It'll hold, probably, maybe, as long as we don't sneeze during the jump. I will inform my sinuses." They made their way to the cockpit, a narrow, dimly lit space that had clearly seen better centuries. The control panel looked like it had been designed by a particularly moody octopus. Jules sat in the co-pilot's seat and stared at the controls. "Okay, which of these knobs makes us go, and which one opens the airlock and kills us instantly?" Salari pointed, "Top left." "Cool, good to know." She activated the sequence, and the jump drive began to hum louder, its glow deepening to a steady blue. The ship shook once like it was bracing for something. Outside, through the narrow viewport, the assassin ship still floated at a distance. "Watching, waiting. They haven't moved," Jules said. "They will once we do." "Well," he muttered, "let's not keep the exploding suspense waiting." The cruiser lurched forward as the jump initiated. Space peeled open like silk tearing in slow motion. The stars twisted. Light bent. For one impossible moment, everything felt like it was about to fall inward. And then they were gone. Silence settled in the cockpit, broken only by the quiet ticking of the cooling systems. Jules blinked, glanced down at himself, then at her. "We're alive," he said, "for now. I'm taking the win." The cruiser emerged in a pocket of space surrounded by drifting rocks and low radiation, exactly where she said they would. The engines coughed once, then fell quiet. Salari powered down the primary systems. "We need to stay dark. Even this region is occasionally patrolled." Jules leaned back in his seat. "I don't know what's more stressful, fighting off drones or pretending to be space debris." She said nothing. He looked over. "You okay?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I do not often flee." "Yeah, but sometimes it's the smart move. Better to regroup than to go out in a blaze of misplaced heroism. That is not the Vayari way." "Well, good news, I'm not Vayari. You are something else entirely." He grinned, still trying to figure out if that's a compliment. She stood. "I will run diagnostics on the armor. The feedback pulses are still uneven." "Want help?" She hesitated, then slowly nodded. They moved to the cruiser's small armory, barely more than a closet with a chair and a charging station. She sat down, her armor opening along the back as if exhaling. Jules stepped behind her, scanning the neural interface. "It's not bad," he murmured, "but the relay nodes are still sensitive, might explain the reactions." She tilted her head slightly. "The tickling." "Exactly. Scientific term, armor-induced neurological twitch response." "I see. I might trademark it, sell branded gloves." She exhaled, something between a sigh and a suppressed laugh. He adjusted the primary relay with careful fingers. The armor shifted under his touch, pulsing faintly. "There," he said. "How does that feel?" She rolled her shoulder. "Stable. No twitching." "No, not even a giggle." She glanced back. Not yet. He grinned. She paused, then said softly, "You should rest. You have done much." "So have you." "Yes, but I do not need as much sleep as you. Your physiology is inefficient." "Wow, thanks. Way to compliment a guy." "I am stating facts." "Well, I'm stating that this inefficient body is going to crash for a few hours. If we're attacked while I'm out, scream loudly and throw something heavy." She nodded, understood. He lingered at the door, then turned back. "Hey, Celari." "Yes." "You're not alone anymore." She didn't reply right away. But as he walked away, her armor's lights pulsed once, slow, steady, calm, like a heartbeat choosing to stay in rhythm with another. The alarm went off exactly 4 hours into Jules's sleep cycle. Not the subtle kind of alarm that gives you time to prepare, but the kind that launches your heart through your chest before your brain wakes up. He stumbled out of the crew bunk with a wrench in one hand and his left boot half on, ready to either repair something or hit someone with a tool. Celari was already in the cockpit. "Proximity breach," she said without turning. "Same signature, they tracked our jump." Jules groaned. Of course they did. Can't have one peaceful nap without some space ninja deciding to drop in. "They have deployed a communication jammer. We are isolated." "Even better." He yanked on his other boot and hobbled forward. "What's the plan? Fight, flee, or hide behind some asteroids and pretend to be a family of space turtles?" She didn't smile, but he could feel the flicker of amusement from her through the link she'd left half open during sleep mode, a habit she didn't realize she'd picked up. "They won't fire yet," she said. "They want confirmation. Proof that I have gone rogue. Well, we can't exactly send them a nice card saying, 'Sorry, I'm evil now, love Celari. P.S. I stole a mechanic.' They will scan for data leaks, memories, biosignature anomalies." Jules rubbed his face. "So what you're saying is, your armor is about to rat you out?" "Yes. What if we make it forget?" She turned toward him. "I mean it," he said. "We purge the memory core, clean sweep. Take the good parts, lock M away and wipe the rest." She stared. "That would sever the command bond. The armor would revert to autonomous lockdown." "I can reprogram it manually," Jules said. "If we bypass the security watchdog, we can create a new pilot profile, new permissions, new identity. Without a proper neural stamp, the suit could reject me. Then we make you not just the pilot, but the owner." Silence stretched between them. The idea was reckless, possibly suicidal, exactly his specialty. "If we fail," she began. "We won't." "You are certain?" "Nope, but I've got tools, charm, and a death wish, so let's get to work." They moved quickly. Back in the armory, Celari powered down the armor while Jules set up a bypass system with coils of insulated wire, a cracked neurospike, and something that used to be part of his coffee machine. "Are you sure this will work?" she asked, seated as he wrapped the last conductor around her wrist plate. "No," he said, "but if I die, delete my browsing history." She blinked. "What is a Pizza Planet loyalty forum?" "Don't ask." He powered the spike. The armor went rigid. Its inner lights dimmed, then flashed red. An automated voice spoke in sharp, clipped Vayari. "Memory core breach detected. Pilot authorization compromised. Rebooting identity schema." The suit locked. Celari gasped once as the neural links went dark. Jules dropped the spike and slammed his hand onto the manual override, rerouting power through his makeshift controller. The ship shook again, this time from weapons fire outside. A blast skimmed the shields, hissing like an angry god. "Kind of busy here," Jules shouted. "Tell your ex-friends to stop knocking." "I cannot respond," she said through clenched teeth. "Good, that means it's working." The armor flickered again, its joints unlocked. Lights glowed blue, then white. "No authorized pilot found. Enter designation." Jules looked at her. She hesitated, then whispered, "Celari vel Arith." Designation accepted. Personality matrix initializing. "Welcome, Celari vel Arith." The armor pulsed once, then settled. Jules exhaled and fell back against the wall. Outside, the enemy ship scanned again. Celari stood, her movements smooth, clean, natural. She stepped into the cockpit, keyed open a transmission port, and sent a short, encrypted burst. A message wrapped in a lie. The enemy ship paused. Then, without warning, it disengaged and vanished into a hyperskip. Jules, catching up, blinked at the empty radar. Wait, what just happened? I transmitted a verified death log. You told them you were dead. I had sufficient data to fake it. Combined with the armor's new profile, it convinced their systems. He stared. You killed yourself with bureaucracy. That's brilliant. I have learned the value of subtlety. He chuckled, and lying. That's progress. She turned to him. You were willing to risk your life to set me free. Yeah, well, you fixed my toaster, it felt fair. She tilted her head. Is that how Terran relationships work? No, usually there's more awkward dating, and someone cries in a bathroom. I see. She stepped closer. Thank you, she said softly, for giving me a way out. You're welcome. They stood in the silence of the drifting cruiser. Stars blinked around them like distant lanterns. No alarms, no threats, just breath and possibility. So what now? He asked. I no longer serve the Dominion. My path is mine. And me. You are inefficient, improvisational, loud. But, she stepped even closer. But I would rather fly through asteroid fields with you than command 1,000 silent ships. He blinked. Wow, that's probably the nicest way anyone's ever insulted me. Her lips curved. I mean it, she said. He grinned. Then let's do it, wherever the stars are stupid enough to let us go. They left the cruiser a day later, after salvaging what they could. Jules strapped his favorite toolkit to his back and left the shop mouse a goodbye snack. Celari wore her newly awakened armor like it had always belonged to her. They boarded a beat-up skiff painted matte black with a streak of silver across the hull. His touch. Her old insignia was gone, replaced by a symbol Jules designed, a gear wrapped in wings. As they launched, Jules took the pilot seat and adjusted the controls. Next stop. She looked out the viewport. Anywhere that isn't looking for us. He nodded. Perfect. I hear Mars still has great noodles. The ship vanished into starlight, leaving behind warships, memory cores, and identities not worth wearing anymore. In their place, freedom, laughter, and 2 lives finally tickling the edge of something new.